We often talk about how dance classes can change lives here on Why Dance Matters. Well, how about this? Wesley Ruzibiza was studying financial management at the University of Rwanda when he stumbled across a contemporary dance class. His direction changed almost at once. He's now a leading choreographer and co-director of one of the world's great dance institutions. None of us should wonder what a dance class can do. Wesley is a brilliant launchpad for the new season of Why Dance Matters, the Royal Academy of Dance podcast. I'm David Jays, and I was delighted and slightly amazed that we began the year celebrating our 50th episode. It's been a privilege to hear so many stories of lives shaped, enhanced, and transformed by dance. Thanks so much for joining us on the journey. Now, grab your passports. We're in a new season. We like to travel on Why Dance Matters, even if it is remotely. We'll be meeting guests this season in Hawaii, Johannesburg, and around the UK. Today, we cross a continent with Wesley Ruzibiza as we follow his life in dance around Africa. He's talking to us on a well-deserved holiday in Tanzania. Wesley is now co-artistic director of the École des Sables in Senegal, one of the world's most influential training organisations. Their production of Pina Bausch's Rite of Spring involves dancers from over a dozen countries and has been an international sensation. Wesley himself grew up in turbulent times. His family is from Rwanda, but he was raised in Congo. The family was imprisoned for almost a year during the civil war there. Wesley recently created a festival around the idea of tolerance. There's no one better to ask about dance's role in troubled times and why dance truly matters. Wesley, welcome to Why Dance Matters. It's so lovely to meet you.
Thank you.
We, on a previous episode, spoke to a fund manager in Singapore who had been a young dancer. But your journey is sort of the other way round, because you were studying finance management when you took a dance class which changed your whole direction. What happened?
Oh, God. I don't know to answer that question short. Oh, goodness. What happened was magic, I would say. I didn't really plan on being a dancer. I was much interested in doing theater and becoming an actor. Even for that, it was more for fun and just for spending time after classes and spending time with my friends. But dance did something to me in different ways that really changed my perspective of my whole life. Meaning it has opened a chakra, if I would say, within me to understand myself, to understand my surrounding, to understand my story and to connect with my country, connect with myself as well. And it's really gave me a place to heal. That's why I decided to stay into the dance sector and to stay as a dancer and keep dancing and keep creating dance and working with dance. If I have to answer it that short, that would be my answer. Yeah.
That must have been quite an impressive first dance class then, if it lit that light bulb. Had you gone in with any expectations that it would speak to you?
Well, it was not only the dance class. I want to see the dance class because I want to see the dance show before. It's connected. It's a bit connected with what I saw on stage and the desire to want to do it. Long story short, when I came back in Rwanda in 1999, I met with this group of people that was staying at the university and creating a piece of theater called Parole, Corps, Voix et Rhizome. It was directed by Kulsi Lanko. And coming back in Rwanda, being for the first time in 1996 and coming back for good in 1999, I didn't really connect it with the country because of the story of my country. The story was too ugly for me to have any space to allow it to be mine. I just didn't want to accept it as my own story. I guess my body, my emotion, my whole being refused to accept the fact that I was Rwandan and that story was part of my heritage. And I kept reading and I kept watching TV show or documentary around it, but it didn't really help. Every time I look at it, I'll be like, this is too ugly to be a place I want to be. So I went to see that show, Parole, Choreographer and Rhizome. The show was a 1 hour and 25-minute show. There was different parts in the show using really choreography and contemporary dance. And that was a genre that I'd never saw before. I was used to see urban dance, hip hop, and traditional dances everywhere I grew up, but I never really got in touch with contemporary dance. And the way they were using their body into telling the story of Rwanda really just opened my intellect and my mind into understanding the whole thing without really having to make an effort. So it was an emotional transmission of the story within me that allowed me to accept that this is happening to Rwanda. So that pushed me to go see the creation process and the workshop that was happening around that show. I went into that and then I sat into the class and I was invited because there was not many boys or men taking the class. And just by doing it, and then we were telling this, the class was around the story of slavery in Brazil, and it was using classical and contemporary dance to tell it. And it was so powerful that something really inside of me just relaxed. And then I was like, goodness, if I can tell a story with just using my body and using emotion and I don't know, my physicality and moving, that is something that I want to do for the rest of my life. Yeah.
As you mentioned there, you grew up outside Rwanda in Kinshasa. Was there dance in your childhood at all? Was it part of your life there?
Yeah, there's always dance around any person that grew up in the continent. I mean, and Kinshasa is a bubbling place full of music and dance. So I grew up dancing on the streets with my friend. I grew up dancing at school, in events, but dance was always there, mostly theater connected with dance. Rwandan community in the Congo to keep the children into the traditional history of Rwanda and to keep them into knowing their heritage. It was like dance classes in traditional dances. So I used to go and do some traditional classes of Rwandan dance within the Rwandan community in Kinshasa. So yes, dance was definitely part of my life.
I was going to ask, actually, because now you work with dancers from across East Africa and beyond as well. Places with difference in history, different languages. Is it easy for everyone to come together in dance?
That's the beauty of it. you know, that the beauty of dance, you actually don't need words. You don't need a language. You just need your body. You need to be present. You need to connect with what you're learning and you need to connect with what you're doing on stage. So my experience with doing dance around the world and creating and teaching as well and also being part of the dance community around the world is really that, like when you're in a dance class, you don't need words. You just need to observe. You need to connect. You need to feel. You need to be able to capture the moment through the movement. So you actually don't need to speak. Sometimes you do a little bit of speaking by explaining, but even if the person doesn't understand what you're saying because you're doing the movement, they don't need translation. I can speak in Kinyarwanda and still teach dance in the UK. And they will get it because I'm doing movement. I say, move your hand like this. So if I say it in Kinyarwanda, they will be like, "Kora akaboko kawe gutya." You don't understand what I said, but you see my hand. You get my feelings. So that's the beauty of it. Yeah.
So bodies can communicate more quickly and more directly than words.
Yeah,
Nice.
Definitely. This is that body can not only communicate, but they can transmit, they can connect with the others very quickly without using words. Of course, sometimes you need words when especially you're creating and stuff, but it's not necessary.
You touched on the very difficult history of your country. Rwanda's past has been very difficult, even for those who were living outside as your family were, during the time of the genocide. But then at the end of the 90s, you were imprisoned in Congo during the war in that country because you were Rwandanese before you were evacuated. That must have been a very scary and confusing time, a lot to live with.
My story with Congo is both a story of love, deception, hate. By the end of the day, I think I have a strong connection in that country for the fact that I grew up there. I've lived almost half of my life in that country. And I started the most beautiful moment of my life in the Congo, my first love, my first kiss, my first outing, It's all connected with that country. So yeah, leaving Congo was really hard because living in a country for years and knowing that you belong to that place, you are Congolese, and then suddenly you just considered as, because of politics, because of everything around it, you become a foreigner, a stranger, someone who is dangerous, someone that shouldn't have the right to live or even to stay or even breathe. So yeah, I had a really traumatic experience during 11 months being imprisoned in Congo. And to be honest, I really didn't think or treat about it because I didn't also have time. I felt like it wasn't my place or it wasn't the moment coming back to Rwanda with everything that the different story that people tells you. I was like, my story is quite beautiful. It's still beautiful. So I don't have a place to talk about it. And then during COVID, it's hit me hard, being in a place where everything is silent. You cannot move, you cannot dance, you cannot be in the studio. The silence brought me back to also questioning that time in the prison in Congo. And I realized that I was traumatized. I was traumatized about what happened in Congo, about the killing that I saw, about the change. Although, I also realized that I had a lot of beauty to share about being in that place. So I started a journey of healing myself and also reconciling myself with that story. I'm still doing it. I haven't finished yet, but I think I'm on a good way. I wrote something around it. I'm working on it. And that's also the reason why, for me, it's really important to bring people together through arts, because this is the only place where politics doesn't have power, where our different culture, language, like you said before, they don't have that power that they have in people in their need of belonging to a place, That the reason why for me, I always work with the region. I always work with young from Congo, from Rwanda, from Burundi, from Uganda, and even beyond. It's a way of doing this work of showing people that beyond borders, we all people and we all the same.
It makes me think that the idea of home becomes quite complicated. And I almost get the sense from you that it could be not just a single country, but it is a region. It's a feeling that isn't necessarily within geographical borders. Is that right?
Exactly. For me, home is not a country. It's a feeling. It's a place. It's people. It's the scent. It's food. It's a lot of things in which you really connect and then you feel safe. Safe eating, safe speaking. I speak better Lingala than I speak Kinyarwanda. So home for me is also Lingala. Home is the people that I grew up with, my first friends, the connection that I had around the world. Home is everywhere where I feel safe, where I feel human, where I feel not different from the others, where I feel considered. So home is Paris, home is Kigali, home is Dar es Salaam, home is Kinshasa. And home can be also a bar. I
Yeah.
don't know.
There is
Just
that thing that dance studios, almost wherever they are, they all kind of look the same. Whatever is outside the window, inside the room, they're always very similar. So I guess if you step into a studio, it doesn't matter
exactly.
where it is.
Exactly.
Here in the UK, Rwanda, I'm sure you know, is in the news because of a very controversial proposal to send asylum seekers there. And there are debates about whether it's a safe plan, it's a legal plan, all of that. But I'm wondering, how does it feel to you to hear your homeland discussed in those terms? Because we hear a lot of British voices telling us what Rwanda is and isn't.
I'm a bit scattered everywhere in my feeling concerning that question, especially because the only thing that I don't really connect with and I don't really understand why Rwanda is doing is the fact that someone was flew, because I've been a refugee and most of Rwanda have been refugees. Someone was risk his whole life to get somewhere. It's because he feel like in that place he will feel safe. So just moving the person to another place for a beneficial financial reason, whatever the government is doing it for, that's for me a big problem, because people are not just objects that you move around and you place in places whatever you feel like you do. We are complex human. This is for me a thing that I don't understand. I don't understand the political reason behind it. I understand the financial reason behind it because it's beneficial Rwanda, of course. But also there's something that I also think of. I'm like, well, what if instead of going to take people in the UK to bring them to Rwanda, why don't we take those people directly from the source where they're suffering? So in that sense, I do understand the need of Rwanda of opening its door, because also we're a country that most of the leaders and most of the people grew out as refugees. So we understand the suffering of being in a place that you don't belong, in a place that nobody wants you. Having people in Rwanda, it's a really beautiful country, and I'm not doing a promotion of Visit Rwanda, but it's a really beautiful country and beautiful people. With our story, we understand human. We understand the need of also helping. Rwanda is not a rich country; it's a poor country. But with the minimum that they have, they're opening doors to everyone. So in that sense, I feel comfortable in the idea that people will come and run and stay. But if it's just moving people like object like that, then I don't agree. And to be honest, I don't understand the politics behind it. I don't even know if I want to understand, to be honest.
Wesley, I was about to say enough politics, back to dance. Can you separate them? It feels to me as if your political thinking and your artistic thinking are very close.
Can I separate them? No. I mean, dance is politics, but it's not the political word that we know. Dance is politics because it's also a place where you voice up what you think, a place where you make change around you. And that's why for me I consider dance as politics, but not that politics that we know of power maneuver, of power manipulation, of power grabbing, or that's not the politics that I believe dance is. Dance is this beautiful politics of teaching, of voicing up your concerns, of showing up, of being the mirror of the society. My dance is politics. I'm not an activist. I want to be clear on that, because I think there's a lot of activists sometimes for no reason. I think it's a good thing, yes, to have activists. We need people that have voices and that are speaking about what's happening around the world. But me, I'm more with my dance. I want to touch human. I want to tell stories, and I don't want to stay in one box where I have to tell only the story about the genocide, about the war that are happening around Africa, the anger. I also want to tell beauty. I want to tell people. I want to tell way of life. I want to tell our legends, our culture. And this is where, for me, dance is politics, because it's connecting. If you see at the end of the day, we all are the same. We have different culture, that's for sure, but we all are the same. We're human beings that need love, that need security, that need to be safe, that need to be listened, that need to be considered, that want access to education, access to hospitals and health. We're just looking for one thing: security for ourselves, for our kids, for our families, for our friend, etc., and etc. And this is for me where the politics of dance is beauty, because it's the one really creating that synergy. between those things.
Do you sense when you're creating a piece and then you deliver it to an audience, can you feel it making an impact on them? Are there moments where you can feel the atmosphere in the room shift?
Definitely. And this is an experience that I've been having. My piece that I'm still touring, which is the East African Bolero. Every time I perform that piece in the room, I see the reaction of people, and I have the reaction spoken to me after, and the exchange that I have the people after. I see that happening directly, the impact on the people. And in the dancer community, the people coming to watch had this beautiful comment that really touched me. We toured the piece a little bit everywhere, but it was the first time we were touring it here in East Africa this summer. And we performed in places that theater that don't have lights and stuff, just dances. I remember performing it in Bukavu in the east of Congo. And after the show, one of the dancers, actually two or three of the dancers came to me and they were like, we want to thank you for bringing this piece here. And then I was like, why? Is it because you enjoyed it? Is it because it's beautiful? Then I know it's beyond that. It's beyond the piece being beautiful. It's beyond the piece being powerful. It's the fact that there's 8 dancers on stage from different countries already. And secondly, all the countries in East Africa are represented. And thirdly, we can connect with our dance because I use traditional dances from all the continent. And they were like, we can connect with this contemporary piece. We can see the beauty that we have in here. We can see that together we can make something that is amazing. And then I was like, yes, this is what I wanted people to get. The power in it, the power of bringing together, the power of showing what we have, the beauty that we have, the power of telling our stories. And this is something that you see always after the representation, people coming to tell you, thank you for that. Because we are not very, if you look at the black dances, I would say, it's not really represented. People don't see it. Even in the continent here, most of the dance school or the places where you go see contemporary dance brings white people, brings people from Europe, from the US to come and teach. And most of the time they will bring the heritage from there and not consider what we have. And Africa has, I don't know about Africa, but I know about the region, and especially my country. We have so much beauty in the dances that are proposed, in the technique, in the way of teaching, in the way of creating art, of dancing, of being on stage. So when we use that, for me, it's a political statement as well. This is what we have. This is what we need the world to see as well, not just being a really pale copy of the rest of the world.
And you do also direct the festival East African Nights of Tolerance in Kigali. And tolerance is such a resonant idea, such a strong idea to build a festival around. Why was that important to you?
Well, I loved something that the president of Rwanda said in the past. And I kind of stole that in a different way. Because most of the time we want people to love you, to love us, to give us space, to regrow so that we can be. But what we need to do, especially for the region that is full of conflict, is to allow the others to be. In order to do that, you don't need to love someone, you don't need to like the person, you don't need to be like the person. You need to tolerate the space of that person to be and to be whatever that you want to be. When I was writing the festival, I was like, what kind of name should I give to the festival? Because I wanted something regional. I wanted something giving the space for people to come and tell the story. And even if you don't agree with what they're saying, to still be able to sit down and listen. And that was really, really important for me, especially with Congo, Rwanda, Burundi, Uganda at that time. There were a lot of fighting. Sometimes it still happens for some of us. And the fact is, like, everyone is taking a position. Nobody's listening. But if you're not listening to each other, how would you find a solution? So tolerate me, let me talk to you, listen, and you have the right to say, no, I don't agree, in a polite way. And then we keep working together, You with your idea, me with idea, and then we find a way of bridging it and bringing it together. So tolerance for me, it's really a powerful thing. It's the only place when you don't tolerate, you cannot make a way to meeting someone. From the beginning, if you're blocking, you're not going to listen. You're not going to allow the other one to be. And at the end of the day, there will be separation. By tolerating, even if you don't like the person, even if you don't agree with what the person is doing or what is representing, you open a platform for discussion. You open a platform of meeting, a possible meeting and a possible discussion. And possibility is what we need the most in the region.
I love the way when you're describing tolerance, it's almost a choreographic idea. It's one body moving towards another or opening up towards another. It's almost like becomes a physical force rather than just an abstract point. I love that. You are, Wesley, super busy person. You are also the co-director of L'École des Sables in Senegal with Alessandra Sautin. It's an institution for training for performance with an incredible legacy. I'm wondering, how easy is it to move a company forward, to progress it, when you're also wanting to be respectful and very conscious of that legacy?
Wow, that's a really hard thing. The thing is, like, École de Sable has this fantastic legacy of Germaine Acogny.
Yeah.
He's one of the biggest figures of the African dance in the world. Germaine Acogny and his husband, Helmut Vogt, founded the school. And the whole school was built on the vision of Germaine Acogny. But what is really, really beautiful is when she decided to step out, she really gave us a space, to come and take over. Meaning, this is your space now as the director of the school for the time that you're being a director, which is 4 years on the contract. Be whatever you want to be in this space. I trust your artistic idea. I trust your artistic way of doing. I trust you as people, me and Alessandra and me, to take this space to another place. It's not easy because Germaine is such a big figure that most of the time when people will talk about the call the sub, it will start with Germaine. We came always after. So taking the company forward, it's taking the school forward, because the school also is a big thing. It's the school programs and the company as well. Taking it forward requested us to recreate the artistry within the school. Alessandra and me started different projects, and we started also a new young company in Senegal, which was not there before, Jean B Junior, Jean B2. This company that we actually opened the school more to the Senegalese people, and especially because the school was there, but the access to Senegalese dancer was not as wide as it is today. So in order for us to take it that's in a big scale, we started by creating a young company based in Senegal that is actually nurturing young dancers from Senegal to create work within the country, work that can be seen around the region and also in the international. Also taking over the company of the school that was Jean B, that didn't really work for the past 5 years. Now we want to take it over as well and bring it back, because it was such a huge ambassador of the school, and also bringing finances. It's a big things in École du Sable that the school has been fighting to be alive. It's one of the biggest schools, but that doesn't have a lot of funding. So most of our programs are self-funded. Now the idea is also to find different sources in which to connect the school to dance markets and to the dance sector in the world, and to make the school survive. So we, like in a lot of fronts right now, doing projects, creating, working on new creation, opening up the school to the world, and also creating special program for the African and the diasporas as well, so that the school will keep thriving.
One of the projects from L'École des Sables, which has been seen here in the UK, in the US, at a lot of international festivals, is Le Sacre, the Rite of Spring, that mighty production of Pina Bausch's dance work with dancers not just from Senegal, but from across the continent. It is a shattering piece of work to experience. Why has that project had such an impact, do you think?
Well, because for long first, the rest of the world didn't think that African dancers are capable of that technical prowess. There's no discipline, that what people always say is like there's no discipline in African dances, in the dance from the continent, because I don't like the word African dances. It put us all in one basket. All the dances that you saw in the piece, most of them went through the training of École de Sables, which is a training based into traditional and contemporary dance from the continent. And plus, some of them didn't even access to professional training. They only train in their traditional dances in their countries. The project has such a really powerful impact because they took the whole piece, the Pina Bausch piece, and made it theirs. So when you're watching Les Sacs with the dancers, they took the sac and then put everything of them inside the piece. They're not just dancing a choreography, they're dancing themselves into the piece. That's why you see the power, you see the passion, you see technical part of it, showing the discipline of the black body as well, which a lot of people did believe in it up to now. Those dances prove that beauty can come from the continent, and beauty that are more than beauty even with Lesage. I believe that's the reason why. And also the fact that you have 34 dancers in a piece from different places. That's such a beautiful thing. It's such a wealthy way of doing things, connecting those different culture into putting them into one stage, doing one thing. That shows you that unity is really something possible. It's not just a dream.
And you've created so much work, you've experienced so much, you've lived a life full of life lessons. When you're teaching and working with young dancers, what is it that you're hoping to pass on to them? What is it that you think is the most important thing you can deliver?
First, the most important for me is the love of what they're doing. I would lie if I say like I'm just passing the technique, passing the skills that a dancer needs to survive in the professional world. Yes, that's necessary. But without the love and the passion of what you do, it ends up being dead. So the first thing that I really, really try to transmit is the love of being on stage, the love of creating, the love of performing, and the love of being present and understanding why you are a dancer, why you are an artist. Otherwise, if you don't have that, you're just not an object, but you're something that people dispose of and take and throw away. Or you actually also dispose of yourself, and then you do, and then after you're dead inside. But with the passion and the love and the understanding of the power that dance is, if you understand that, you can really change your environment and your society and your community around you. So I really insist on the dancer understanding why they're dancing, why they want to become dancers, why they want to become choreographer, why they want to create if they have the aim of creating in the future. So really questioning yourself, because it took me a long time before knowing that I wanted to become a choreographer, or before I even wanted to dance professionally. I knew that I love dance, but I was like, maybe this is something I will do on the side. So I was really scared on being, so what if I don't have anything to offer to the rest of the world? What if I don't have a voice? What's going to happen to me? So I questioned myself. Then when I found my answers, I went to look for things that will help me to grow into becoming the dancer that I am, or the choreographer that I am today, meaning trainings, technical connection, network, places, meeting with others. That's for me, it's something that comes after. So of course you need technique, of course we need skills to become professional. But if we don't know and we don't love what we're doing, then there's no point for me to do that.
Wesley, it has just been such a pleasure. I'm going to ask one last question. I don't doubt for a second that dance matters to you, because you've expressed that so powerfully. But why? does dance matter to you?
Oh goodness, I've been thinking of this question since you sent me. Like, why does dance matter for me? I'm like, well, dance matter for me for one reason. Dance has saved my life. Dance has been this friend, this place, this element that have kept me alive, that have made me realize that I can have a little change. I can make a little change into the world. Dance matter for me because it's create magic around. It connects people. It builds community. It heals people. Dance teach people. Dance is this moment where you're true with yourself. That's why for me, dance matters. True with yourself, true with the others, and then able to create a real change. That's it. To be honest, I don't know if I answered the question. I'm still thinking of it.
Wesley's positivity, his depth of thought and feeling is an inspiring beginning to our new season. If the conversation touched you, do let us know. You'll find the RAD's social media links in our show notes, along with more about Wesley's work. Take a journey through our previous episodes too, which also speak to dance's role in a troubled world, like the special guest on our 50th episode, Olga Smirnova, the star ballerina of the Bolshoi who left Russia after the invasion of Ukraine and is building a new life elsewhere. And please do like or subscribe to the podcast so that we can find other people who might enjoy travelling with us on Why Dance Matters. Our guest today was Wesley Ruzibiza. Why Dance Matters is made by the RAD team of Niamh Carey-Furness, Keisha Dodd and Katie Hagan, and our artwork is by Bex Glendinning, and our producer, Sarah Miles, is the very best of travelling companions. I'm David Jays. Take care and see you soon.